How's it going, folks? Taylor Wachowski here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how to teach your dog to walk on a loose leash. Now, you may be thinking, if you've been here a while, that I've already done a video on this in the past, which you're right, I have. But since I've been getting a lot of new subscribers lately, which I very much appreciate, and I love you all dearly, then I would like to do a refresher. I would like to show you some new things that I've kind of learned since that last video a few years ago. And before we even get started, we need to understand, why do dogs pull? Well, there could be 1,000 different reasons why they pull. For one, they walk faster than we do. Their natural pace is just a lot quicker than a typical human's. It could be impulse control. They see a dog, they see a cat, they see a squirrel, they see a car, and they want to go after it. They're able to get to where they want to go by simply just pulling and drudging along. You know, if they pull their human, they're able to keep going where they're going because nothing has stopped them otherwise, or nothing is telling them to not pull otherwise. Even if they're dragging their human along, they still get to go where they want to. They can feel pressure around their neck if they're wearing a collar, around their body if they're wearing a harness, and that can send them into fight or flight. This is the oppositional reflex. They do kind of the opposite of what you think they would. For instance, a lot of people will think a dog that's pulling so hard they're choking themselves and gasping for air and coughing and causing their trachea to collapse and all these other issues. They think, well, this dog is just stupid because they can't breathe. Why don't they just stop pulling? Well, by that point, they are in fight or flight. You end up getting tunnel vision. Your blood rushes to your large organs. You're in survival mode. All this happens very quickly. And the dog's natural instincts are to just move forward. The oppositional reflex is a push into a push. So something's pulling back on them. They're going to fight it. They're not going to just, oh, okay, I'll just go with this and let this drag me along. They don't get it. It's not like they don't think logically to say, oh, I'll stop. And even if they do stop, the human a lot of times will create this problem even more because they have their leash up here, the dog is pulling, the owner doesn't think to loosen their leash. So even if the dog loosens up, this leash gets that much higher or gets that much tighter or it gets into their loop around the hand. So the dog says, okay, I moved back, that didn't do anything, so let me try something else. So we need to teach the dog at the exact moment they give us what we want, we give them what they want. I'll explain this a bit more in a moment, but for the main reason why dogs pull, it could be 1,000 different reasons. Mainly it's because of the nerve endings, the oppositional reflex. It's a reflex. You don't think about it. If I were to come behind you and try to push you off the edge of a cliff, your natural instinct without thinking is to fight that. Same with our dogs. It's all about instincts and survival. The brain goes, bam, we need to survive. We're not going to die. So I go to teaching dogs pressure and release. I teach the dogs a new conditioned response. When they feel this pressure, if you actually move into it, it's going to go away. This is going against everything in their natural instinct of survival. Back to pushing you off that cliff. If I were to push you, but I teach you, don't fight it, instead fall off that cliff, and you actually end up flying, or you're not going to fall to your death, then there you go. I'm teaching you something new that goes against your instincts. So it can take a little while. So be patient with your dogs. When working with pressure and release, a lot of people have started using it in an improper way, in my opinion. What I'm used to with pressure release is I work with herd animals. I work with prey animals. Any horses, cattle, even rabbits. Any prey animal works with pressure and release in the sense that they move away from pressure. If you have a horse here and I'm walking up here, they're going to move away. I am putting pressure on them. It's an invisible bubble, if you will, that my bubble is coming into theirs, and they're saying, well, you're making me nervous. Think about that balloon. I use that as an analogy in a lot of my videos. A balloon that fills up with hot air, that's putting pressure on something, making it nervous. You're stimulating it. You're overstimulating it, and it can pop. That would be the animal, whether it's a horse or a dog or a cat or whatever it is, and they run away. Or the dog might bark and lunge, or the cat might scratch you because you're petting it too much. You're not reading its signals. So if I'm petting a cat, that balloon fills up, I pet it too much, it pops, the cat scratches me, bad lesson. Or if I pet it a little bit and let go, if I walk up to that horse and stop, or I turn away, or I walk up to a dog and move away, I'm releasing that pressure. That balloon goes down. Better lesson learned. That's a much better lesson to be taught than if they learn that they can either get release on their own, or they react because they're being defensive, because I didn't read their signals. I put too much pressure too quickly and that balloon popped. A lot of people nowadays will use that as in pressure on, pressure off with the e-collar, shock collar, pressure collar, whatever you want to call it. Dominant dog collar, slip lead, all that jazz, okay? They'll say pressure on, or they'll have their little remote doohickey in their hand and they say, okay, pressure on, I'm going to tap this when I want my dog to come to me, I'm going to hold it down until they come to me, or until they look at me. When they look at me, pressure off. That's not the same thing in my opinion. That is just malarkey. My 80-year-old dictionary. A lot of those same people will also use pressure on and pressure off, where they tighten the lead in a very uncomfortable way to make the dog uncomfortable, and then they loosen it. That's not pressure and release. That's just again, malarkey. All right, so for me, pressure and release is physical. I'm either touching them or just your body, your presence being there. Now, when I do use pressure on the leash, I do use it to move the dog left, right, whether on their collar or on their harness, because I want to teach them to give in to pressure. It is something they're going to feel pressure on their body. They may get nervous. As soon as they lean in my way, they shift their weight, they give me a half a step, I loosen that leash. You're going to see me show you this in just a moment with my little demo dog. But just so you understand, timing, feel, all that is very important. So you're going to learn to walk with a loose leash. You're going to learn to use your hands, develop feel, develop timing, understand how to take slack away and let it out. I want you to learn to let your dog have their leash and not be worried about holding them back. This is going to be as much of a change for the human to reteach their body and their natural instincts of holding their dog back. And you're going to learn to be able to let your dog have some room and have some space. And by doing that, your dog is going to fight you less. The dog is going to pull less. The less you hold them back, the more they actually behave better. I know it sounds crazy, but give it a shot. All right, you've heard enough talking. Time to get walking. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. I got my demo dog, Spike. Oh, sorry, Spike. He's inflatable. If you didn't know, he's not real, but we're going to be using him to show you how I use the leash. Now, I'm going to be showing you with him versus Adonis or any other dog, because I don't want to be showing you the wrong things to do that would set the dog back. So he's going to be my little demonstration right here. So first we have him on a martingale. This is Adonis' little martingale taken material. So this is great for a dog who slips out of their collar. It kind of tightens. It is not anything meant to pop the dog. Okay, we're not going to be popping. I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, so say you have it on the back of your dog. Now I'm going to be giving him the full length of this 6-foot leash right here. For him, say he were to be walking, and immediately a lot of people will put the leash on like this. A lot of people will take their leash in and have it this tight, especially if they have a very tall dog. I mean, heck, I've seen people practically grabbing their dog's collar, trying to make sure that they stay still, or they heel with them, or they're right here with them and they don't do anything. And it's like, dude, give your dog some leash, okay? Give your dog some leash. Let them have, for me, usually I give them the length of the leash, regardless of how tall the dog is. Just because they're taller doesn't mean I need to have them on these really short, 4-foot leashes, or these leashes that have a handle on them. I hate those type of leashes because it makes it a cheat for people to too easily hold their dog back like this. That's like someone holding you by the collar of your shirt. That's really uncomfortable. So we don't want that for our dogs, so let them have the length of the leash. If your dog pulls a lot outside, then start inside. Teach your dog to be able to stand just like this. I could be doing this with any dog, and I would have them standing just like this and having a conversation with you. I'm teaching them just to stand still on a loose leash. If they start to pull, see this guy gets ahead of me, I'm just going to very gently take him, and if he's pulling straight on me, I'm not going to pull back on him, because you see that kind of pulls back on his entire body, on his trachea, on his throat, the chest plate, his spine. That's not good. So I'm not going to pull back on him this way. Instead, I'm actually going to, and if the collar were a little looser than this one, you don't want it this tight. So if he were ahead of me, I would move his collar, and I would gently move him just to the side. And you see he's going to kind of tip over. Same idea for your dog, but to catch themselves, they're going to move in. As soon as he gives me that step forward, or as soon as he gives me that step to the side, so I move him this way, I loosen my leash. I'm using as much tension on this blow-up balloon dog as I would on a real dog. Just as much as you need to get them just to move off balance and take a step in. As soon as they take that step in, you release your pressure. Pressure, release. I'm not going to be popping my dog. You see, that's what happens. Obviously, their dog isn't going to go flying. If your dog goes flying, then shame on you. Don't be sending your dog flying across the room with a correction like that. I'm not popping back on them. because, or leaning back on them or pulling back on them, because it just teaches them to brace it. I don't want them to brace anything. I want them to be very soft and become as soft as this balloon guy, so that way if I do this, they can move to it, or I can walk them just like this. That's how Adonis is. You'll see a bit of footage of him in just a minute of how we work with a regular leash, and how this is exactly what I did with him. And I taught him over the period of a year to walk in collars, head halters, harnesses, anything. I don't use head halters on him. Most of the time, I don't even walk him on his regular collar. I just walk him on a harness. That's just what we do. Can he walk on a collar? Absolutely. Do I recommend you teaching your dog to walk on a collar? I do, because just for those moments when you need your dog, say they get loose, you need to throw a little slip lead on them, you can do that and walk them the same way without them, panicking and trying to kill themselves and run away. Okay, so we don't want our dog to choke like that. We are preparing our dog to walk with something around their throat without sending them into fight or flight. Opposition reflex here, and right here. If I'm to pull up on this and push here, he's going to fight it. Because I'm sending him into fight or flight, he doesn't like the force. So if I want to teach a dog to sit, usually I use a treat, I lure, or I can wait for them to sit and capture it that way. But now we're talking about leash walking. So if he's walking ahead of me and he's really, really pulling, I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to move to the side of the dog, and I'm going to actually bend over and try to move the dog this way. Sorry, buddy. I'm going to, so say he's really pulling that way, I'm going to move to the side. You see my body leaning over him to the side here. I'm going to be putting any leverage and pressure this way, very lightly, literally just fingers worth, and I'm going to hold it there. Say he fights it at first, which they may. They're not really sure what to do. Their instinct is to fight this pressure. So if he moves in 1 inch or leans in that direction, I let go instantly. If he's going on this way, same this way. If he's pulling straight, I'm going to move him this way and loosen. Just leaning in my direction is all I want. I make the right answer easy. So whenever I'm teaching my dog, I'm not popping, I'm gently using this. I'm also not jerking and then release. I'm not popping, I'm not jerking, I'm not doing any of that nonsense. I'm using light pressure, a finger's worth of pressure, okay? This is on a flat collar. Imagine using that on a prong collar. It'd probably puncture this guy. So imagine, any of that popping and all that. We're not jerking and getting angry. So if I have a loose leash here, I don't need to be popping and pulling. I only do that if his leash is tight. Anytime he's walking and his leash gets tight, I'm going to stop walking forward, move my hand over, and gently move him in just a little bit. And I could drop that leash. I expect him to continue moving forward and pulling again. That's okay. We're just doing our little 2-step dance, back and forth, back and forth. I don't care where he goes. Over time, I can stand here with my leash just like this, have a conversation, look at the birds, do whatever. And he can just stand here and do whatever he wants within this limit of this leash, as long as it doesn't get tight. If it starts getting tight and he starts walking over here, I'm just going to very gently bring him back in and loosen a little bit. It's just that much. Now, over time, you're going to develop feel and timing. This is feel and timing, nice and smooth. I'm not fiddling with my leash. This is loud hands. If I'm trying to figure out how to use my leash, if I'm talking this whole time doing this, guess what? My dog learns to ignore that. My dog learns to ignore all this. If I'm teaching a dog, I'm very quiet. My hands are quiet. My hands are close to my body. If I need to take in slack, I can slide down, grab it, bring it in. I can also let it slide out of my hands. I'm not twisting, because if I talk like this, I'm using my hands. I talk with my hands a lot, but not when I have my leash on. Because if I do this with any dog and I start, talking and flinging and doing this and that, the dog learns to ignore that as a signal. Versus when I have a dog that's very soft and has learned to give into literally this much pressure, which is Adonis, I can honestly just put the leash over him like this, and he can come in, he can move in. He knows to move into pressure on his chest, because I've done the same thing. If you have a harness, you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to have it on the harness, which will be hooked to the back, and you will just have to move them left or right. So with Adonis, if I were to do that, if I were to be talking the way I'm doing this here, that's like a correction to him. He thinks that's a leash pop or a jerk to him, okay, even this much. I don't do that at all with him. And if I do, it's usually by accident. If I'm walking and I trip or the leash gets a little bit tight, he's going to say, whoa, that much pressure right there? He's like, whoa, what's going on? Mom's usually not doing that. So am I in trouble? And I just say, hey, sorry dude, I tripped. Let's just move on. And I'm going to be more careful about my leash. So when you're working with your dog, very gentle, very steady, even pressure. That much. You don't need a whole lot. As much as your dog requires, just to move them to the side. Okay, now again, we're not pulling back on them. We are moving them to the side because it makes it easy for them to kind of go off balance and they want to step into that pressure. We're teaching them to go against their natural instinct. They feel pressure, they're trying to run. It's not normal for him to say, hey, I feel this pressure here, let me move into it, and it goes away. Because a lot of times, if they're pulling and they're fighting, and we bring them back, and we don't let go, and the dog says, that got me nothing, and I need to try something else. I move him to the side one step, and I loosen. Just one step. Or if he leans in my direction, depending on how hard or how nervous of a dog he is. Some dogs are nervous and they start to pull. I don't need them to take 2 or 3 steps back. I just want them to give me the slightest bit of leash back. I want them to loosen that tension. Over time, they learn to do it on their own. So say they're walking and the leash gets tight. They say, oh, I know how to give into this. They move back and it loosens. This helps if they are tethered, if they get stuck. They can become so sensitive. If you continue to be sensitive and you teach them at a whisper and not a yell, then the dog will listen to a whisper. So Adonis can literally, I can stick a branch or a twig in the ground and hang this on that branch, and he thinks he's tied. So I suggest you teach your dog to walk on a regular collar the same way, in a harness the same way, and any other tool that you happen to use with them. For me, it's just flat buckle collar or a harness. I don't like prong collars. I don't think you need choke chains. You don't need any of that nonsense. That is truly nonsense. Just teach him in a regular harness and a collar. Well, thank you very much for helping me, Spike. He will probably be in future videos to help me out. And as of the filming of this video, I am at 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel. So thank you very much, everyone who has helped me reach 100 subscribers. To me, that is incredible. Never thought I would even get past 1 or 10. I was very thankful for those 10. So thank you for the people who have enjoyed my content enough to subscribe and want to see more future videos. I really do appreciate it. It means the world to us, and I hope to continue helping you and educating you and just being stupid and silly with our parody videos and just bringing entertainment and education to y'all. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to show you some footage of how I walk Adonis on different types of products. So if you're excited for that, then you're going to see how this translates to the real world. So we're out here walking Adonis. I don't want him to eat this grass, which he likes to eat. Take fingers. Good. Now he came on his own with that. That wasn't because of the leash. I say I don't want him eating this. I'm going to pull him away from this. Gives me a step and I loosen. Pull him away again. Fingers. Step and loosen. Good boy. Alright, let's go. Yeah, he wants to chew on this grass here. So I'm going to bring him away, loosen. That much. Now he's even pulling a lot more than normal because he wants to chew on this grass. But he gets itchy from it. I don't want him eating that. So this is just to demonstrate the pressure. Yeah, so now we're walking. I don't care where he is in front of me. He can have this whole leash. If I don't want him to pull, I will just stop walking forward. Leash gets tight. You can see I use this much. We're going to move him to the side. Pressure, pressure, step, loosen. Good boy. Oh, yes. Keep going. Taking some slack. Now there's a loose dog over there, so we'll let them pass. Okay, so here we have a loose dog. If Adonis were to try to go for him or be reactive, I would just bring him back a step. Again, just this much. Squeakies. Good boy, and loosen. Good boy. So we're just going to wait for this guy to pass. Let's see if he can stand on this loose leash. He may not pass, so we might just go ahead and go. Anyway, so we're going to go. Good boy. Good boy. Come on, dude. So we're still walking. He has all this lead he can use if he wants. This is him most of the time. And I've never jerked him or popped him to teach him to be loose like this. Oh, goodness. Oh, good boy. Real life sacking out here. Good boy. See, I'm not forcing him. He's going to put his own pressure on the balloon. Good boy. He can get released. Good boy. Good boy. He had his loose leash. If I tighten, he might react more. Because he feels trapped. Good boy. So I gave him a minute to figure out what it was. Just some balloons. I'm a good boy. So he knows there's a dog here. He gets excited. So he might pull a little bit. That's okay. There's a little doggy over there. You just saw him. Come on, Bubba. Just gonna use the same pressure to get him going. Good boy. Cute little doggy. Good boy. Alright, so he gets excited. And bring him back. Back and forth. I know. Hey, hey, hey. Easy. Good boy. I know. Good boy. I saw you didn't really see much of that, but he went to go play with Thompson. So I had to focus on him more than the dog, but I just use pressure and release. Let's not be on these nice plants. Good boy. Good boy.